was there and it went black.
All set.
All right, great. All right. Good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the July 13th, 2016 school board meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, I'll ask you, do we have any revisions?
Yes, we have the addition of the board member vacancy, discussion under school board comments, approval of purchases over $5,000 under school board comments, and the addition of the school board audit questionnaire. I figured we could just do that under reports.
Okay. Very good. As far as school board members, Janine Lepore will not be joining us this evening due to work. And Nicole Quintana will not be joining us. She resigned as of yesterday. And that's what Michelle just alluded to, that we'll just discuss as far as procedure to replace in just a little bit. So, summary of non-public from June 22nd, 2016. Mr. Barker made a motion to accept the resignation of Jesse Harlander, physical education teacher at GMS. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 4-0-0. Mr. Barker made a motion to accept the resignation of Connor Lane, part-time physical education teacher at CHS. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 4-0-0. Mr. Barker made a motion to accept the resignation of Alexandria Aponic, part-time art teacher at CHS. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 4-0-0. I don't believe we have any presentations or recognitions and correspondence. I know there was one on,
There was one about recycling.
yeah. I sent that to you, Michelle.
Yeah,
right?
you sent me the other one, too.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the same company that he's used in the past as far as recycling of computer
We've used
parts.
Apple in the past.
And so we just forward that one to Jason.
Yeah, it was from Marilyn Pagan from theusecomputers.com, just saying they had a
program.
e-waste recycling program.
Okay.
It'll be included in the minutes.
And was there anything else?
I believe that was it.
So we have approval of draft minutes from 6/22/16.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? With none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 3-0-0. Community forum? Seeing none. Superintendent comments? Again, the superintendent's not here also. He is up in Vermont enjoying himself and enjoying the weather. So he'll be back with us at our next meeting. So that'll bring us to school board meeting, school board comments, I'm sorry.
No real comments. Obviously, sorry to see Nicole go, but I'm sure we'll find someone who will happily and enthusiastically take her position.
I do have one comment that's a little bit off, but only because Tina had sent me something in reference to VLAC and scoring.
Yeah.
So I received a response from Jody Callahan
Mm-hmm.
that it's in the student handbook that they do not accept those grades to be applied to the GPA. They
Okay.
do accept as far as the credits, but it's in the handbook they don't, mainly due to the fact that, again, it's a little bit out of our environment as far as controlling. Julie, you might be able to explain it a little bit better if you could.
Yeah, it's quality control. VLAX has its own grading scales and policies, and I'm sure they do their version of monitoring it, but whereas we have grading scales, those grades are checked periodically by school administration for quality control. If there's an appeal by a student or a parent, that's brought to our administration, and we wouldn't have access to all of those procedures and this is very common, not only in our state but elsewhere, where transfer credits of all types, whether they're from colleges, a student of ours could actually take one of our dual enrollment courses on the campus of one of the colleges rather than here, and all of those transfer credits would be given credit if there's a passing grade, but not the actual grade itself.
That's a
fairly standard practice. Most schools that you go to.
Yeah.
But they will accept the credits towards,
Yeah.
which makes sense. Does anyone have anything else? No. All right. So next item is board member vacancy. Michelle drafted a letter which will be in the HLN. Unfortunately, it won't make it in tomorrow's paper or Friday's, whenever it comes out. But it will be in for the following week. Basically just asking Litchfield residents, again, I can read the letter. Litchfield Board accepted with deep regret the appreciation of her service, the resignation of Nicole Quintana. Nicole provided invaluable service on the school board, and it will be challenging to replace her. Litchfield School Board is now faced with the appointing a replacement until the next election in March 2017. We're asking any interested residents of Litchfield to submit a letter of interest outlining why you would like to serve on the school board, along with the skills you feel are applicable to the position. And then please submit by Friday the 29th. And then what I'd like to do is see if we can set up a meeting before our next meeting to just interview whatever candidates we do have, so that we can have that person sworn in, so that we can have that member at our next meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's a date that works best for anyone.
Next meeting's on the 13th, is that right?
Correct.
Next meeting is on August 17th.
17th.
17th, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a Wednesday. It can
Right.
be a Tuesday.
I mean, we can even do it, only because there's a possibility I'm not going to be around the first 2 weeks of August. So if we can even push it to like the Monday before our next meeting. And I know Wednesdays are tough anyway for Janine, so she'd probably be more apt to be able to do a Monday. Just come in, just strictly for meeting the candidates.
Sure.
Or it could end up being, as with the budget committee, both times, it's just a candidate.
I'll be around, so anytime that week can work. Or the week before.
Yeah, the thing is, I won't be around then.
Oh, you
but-
won't be around that week. Okay.
The next one is on the 17th, so do you want, can everyone do the 15th?
As far as I can tell, I'm open.
I can do the 15th or the 16th.
All right, so when we tentatively right now say the 15th.
Sure.
I mean, we have enough time. Well, when are you going to be sending this to HLN?
I'm going to send it Tuesday.
Okay.
Can we,
Actually, I'm going to actually send it tomorrow,
Right.
and they'll have it for next week.
But if you need to make a change, you can make a change if
I can
15th
make a
didn't work.
change and send it Tuesday from home, and that'll
actually,
be
can we do the
fine.
16th?
Yeah?
Mondays are hard for me. I don't have my calendar yet, but
What time do you want to post the meeting?
At 6 o'clock?
That works for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it may be just one candidate, who knows?
Yeah.
Could be 10.
Well, I had them forward the letter to you and a copy
Yeah.
to me, just in case.
Yep.
Something, you never know.
All right, so we'll go with Tuesday the 16th.
So I will post this.
And this is the same process the Budget Committee took as far as replacing the candidate. If we do have applicants, I just lost it. What I'd like to do is find out if Jason can be here that same evening, so that
Sorry.
if we do select someone, we can, that person can be sworn in.
okay.
Just bear with me, because I just lost the page. So that will bring us to curriculum.
What would you like to know?
I think everything's in front of us that we need to know.
It is. And you notice the same format, so you have, excuse me, instructional practices for that subject area. You have the common competencies, if there are any, and then by grade level from K to 8. And then for high school, you have the individual courses in each of those subjects. The only one that's different is world languages, and we did mark it as 5 through 8, even though currently we have starts in grade 8. Wishful thinking that at some point I might be able to have world languages in the lower grades, but we did just specify the 2 8th grade courses. One is the exploratory class, and the other one is Spanish 1, which is similar to the exactly the same as the high school Spanish 1. So with those 5 areas, you actually have everything except business, and I'm working with our business teacher next week to do the scope and sequence and the competencies and performance indicators for business. And then Mr. Lonergan and I will be talking about technology education, both here at the high school and then with our, hopefully, a new tech ed teacher at the middle school. The delay in hiring due to the low number of applicants may take us some time to do that. But as soon as we have a person in place, it will be very important to work with that person on creating that document. And then we will have, hopefully, approved documents for all of our content areas.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then the next steps, I'll just add this, is that teachers have been working for 2 years now on the instructional units that align with those curriculum documents. And for each course, or at the elementary school, it's by grade level, at least 4 units, 2 units each of the last 2 years. And again, Mr. Lonergan and I and Mr. Perez are in the process of going through those and seeing what kind of alignment we have, and then we'll be making plans to move forward into the next school year. And hopefully in the next year, 2 at the most, that we would have completed units for all of our courses. That's our goal. And keeping in mind that at the end of each, either semester point or end of each course in the spring by department or grade level, they would be looking at how the year of the course went, what kinds of tweaks we need to make, and then those would be in place, hopefully, either the end of the spring or over the summer, so that when we launch in the fall, we'll have all of those considerations in place. It will make it better for parents if they would like a document to know just what encompasses each unit in the scope and sequence of a course or a grade level subject. And if we have people who have to be out for medical reasons or other reasons, it certainly facilitates the process if you can hand the person the unit or units that will need to be taught. So we're hoping that will take place in the near future.
Excellent. All right. So we're looking for a motion to approve the 5.
I make a motion to approve the 5 different curriculum frameworks.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? There's a lot of information there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got adequate time to look it over, so with that, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Thank
I
you.
would like to just say thank you to all the teachers and then the PERC members who were staff members and community members that worked on the process over the last 2 to 3 years. It was a lot of work. It took a lot of deliberation first to come up with a design that everyone was comfortable with, that would suit all of the different curriculum areas. It's a little bit different than what some school districts use, but so far in using the early ones for a couple of years, they seem to be very user-friendly, give appropriate information. Certainly, higher order skills are the order of the day with all of the verbs that are used that we want students to be analyzing and applying and evaluating and creating the learning. And it isn't just about topics to be covered. That's a key element. And then in the instructional units, that's reflected in things like the transfer statements, which are actually the performance indicators. What can students take from this course or this subject that they can apply either to future subjects in that subject area or related areas? Key understandings and essential questions that don't have a right answer, so to speak, but cause kids to really look at information, use evidence to support their claims, if you will, or their answers to those essential higher order questions. So when we talk about really wanting to challenge all of our students at whatever level the course is, this has really been the focus of all this curriculum work.
Thank you. I apologize, I want to go back up a little bit because I lost my computer here for a minute, so I went by paper and then I missed the middle.
It's all right, I'm just gonna pull one more.
And And actually, before I just go into the next two, I want to, and I apologize for not doing it earlier, welcome Mr. Lonergan to our meeting, our new principal for CHS, and welcome.
It's good to be here.
So we need to go back up to approval of invoice for NWEA for 2016-17.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. And I just did it again. And the next one is McGraw-Hill.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. What is this one?
This is a
That's for Study Sync.
series of materials called Study Sync,
Okay.
and we piloted them this year for grades 6 through 8.
Okay.
And it's a combination of print materials and an online resource. As you remember, we are purchasing resources that have both print and online in all cases. Families can access it at home, the actual text as well as activities, and the teachers have an online portal. And it seems this year that it's been a really nice transition. As you know, we piloted and then approved purchase of a different set of resources called Journeys by Harcourt, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, for grades K through 5. And then grade 6 has been a really good transition point for us. Knowing that students are making the physical transition in 5th grade, and they also, now we have, 4 different teachers teaching the students, or 5 actually. So in terms of the materials and the familiarity, we wanted to keep math the same, so we have Envisions 4 to 5, so that looks familiar to them. We've kept the reading language arts, the journeys in 5th grade. So for the purposes of these 2 subject areas, it has worked out well during the pilot to have that transition occur in 6th grade.
Okay, so is it?
So that's language arts.
Language arts and reading, correct.
And it goes with existing curriculum, or how does it?
Yes.
fit in?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. It's based on those common standards that we wrote in our curriculum documents 4 years ago now, actually. So there's a lot of close reading, where students really analyze small passages and really not only comprehend it, but do a lot of analysis. They're required to cite the text references when they're answering questions or drawing conclusions, that kind of thing. The writing is integrated into the resources also.
It's pretty rigorous, too. My daughter had her first year this past year. She was in
Mhm.
6th grade. And
Yep. It is challenging.
it was, but in a good way.
Yes.
She rose
right.
to it. Yeah.
And also, and that is a good aspect, it also has a lot of response to instruction materials for those students who might struggle with some of the higher lexile, more challenging text reading. So they have the opportunity to reread and revisit that, have their questions broken down a little more on what you would refer to as a scaffold. So if this question tends to be too challenging for a student at any given time, and it's not always, then there are questions that help the student sort of build up to that level of understanding. And we've had tremendous support from McGraw-Hill, as we do from Harcourt and the other, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, with the other materials. So we've developed a really good relationship with these vendors, which is particularly helpful. We have now, this is a 6-year product agreement with them, so the consumables, which basically are journal, books, and that kind of thing, we'll be getting for 6 years at no additional cost, just like we do with the other programs that we've bought recently. And that's a really good advantage, because we know that, we can plan on the cost and everything. And PERC is working on a revised curriculum review cycle, and that will separate the review in terms of the content of materials versus the budget cycle, because as you know, a lot of our materials we're buying more than 1 year because of the cost impact. This is just a one-time cost because it was $40,000. But with our journeys that we just purchased, We actually have a 3-year plan. We'll be in the second year of our math plan. So we're creating sort of this staggered little chart. So you'll be able, in the fall, when we bring that, you'll be able to see what the cost impact is over the different years. And hopefully we'll be able to predict a little better when we will need to, go into another product or the next stage of a product in terms of our budgeting.
So you mentioned 40,000 upfront cost, a one-time cost, but that'll be spread out because of the last 6 years, you said?
Right, we're going to pay at one time.
Yep.
Because we've got, you wouldn't, unless it's 50,000 or more, they usually won't allow us to pay over more time. But we wouldn't want to anyway because of the other expenses that we've occurred.
No, it's, 40,000 seems like, it is a lot, but it's also, if you stop and think about it, it's 6 years' worth that you're receiving.
Correct. And it's also for over 300 students over those 6 years. So, given the cost of some other things, it's a little more reasonable. Companies are recouping their costs for the research behind it and the writing and so forth. That product itself costs over $75,000. So, like I said, take me with you when you want to go shopping. And our journeys that we talked about last month, the original cost was over $200,000. The anticipated cost was to be closer to $150,000, and we were able to get it for $75,000. In some cases, we're serving as a demonstration site. We're one of the first 1 or 2 school districts in our region to purchase, and so we've visited schools, obviously, in Massachusetts or other regions of New Hampshire that have used the product. But there's some incentive so that we would host some visitors that might use the product. So it's harmless in that sense. Plus, it's really reciprocal because we go to other places to visit when we're looking to purchase products that they have.
There was a motion, right?
Yeah.
One second. Then we get clarification. Sorry. Any further questions?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries 3-0-0. Next up is our board member questionnaire. Is this something we just need to fill out now, Michelle? or-
Yeah, I started filling it out. You can go through the questions with the board just to make sure that I have them correct.
So I just need to read through them. All right, so this is something that's done yearly by our auditors. So the first question, do you have any knowledge or suspicion of fraud affecting your entity?
No.
I'm sorry, I was reading another question. No. No.
Have you received any communication from employees, former employees, regulators, or others alleging fraud?
No.
Nope.
Have you identified any specific risk or fraud within your entity?
Nope.
No.
Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow?
Yes.
If yes, the document and you have that.
Yep, we'll give them the copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you or any of the related parties of yours had any interest, direct or indirect, in any of the following transactions, pending or incomplete transactions since July 1, 2015, in which a school district SAU or any retirement savings pension or other similar plan was or is to be a party? Sales, purchase, exchange, or leasing property?
No.
Receiving or furnishing goods, services, or facilities?
No.
Transfer of receipt of income or assets?
No.
Maintenance of bank balances and compensating balances for benefits of others?
No.
Other transactions?
No.
Does the board formally authorize all disbursements? Sorry about that. Where am I? Disbursements, both vendor and payroll, prior to the release of the funds?
Yes.
Described by the board? I don't have to read those, right?
No, I'll take care of
Yeah.
that.
Does the board review comparative reports of estimated and actual revenues and appropriations and expenditures?
Yes.
Has the board approved a disaster recovery plan in the event of a loss or interruption of the IT function? That would probably no. It's something we will be doing, correct?
Yes,
Was there a written investment policy adopted?
yes, and you're going to approve it again tonight.
Yeah, well, right there, 713. Have you adopted the use of either debit or credit cards by the employees?
Yes.
Does the board have knowledge of any funds or bank accounts that are not in custody of the treasurer?
Yes, I mean, our student funds aren't in custody, are they?
That's right, the student funds
Yeah.
act. That's right, so you can cross out. Did I put yes?
You put no.
I put no, you can cross out. and put
If yes, provided the name of the custodian in the account.
That's right, so I'll have to put down all that, I forgot about those, thank you. See, that's why I wanted you to go through the questions.
And has the board approved the fund balance policy in compliance with GASB number 54? Yes. That'll be, correct?
Yep, we do, and they'll get all those policies. I'm turning out it's all ready.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. So that will bring us to committee reports. And I think we've already heard as far as from Perk, and I don't know if there's anything else, and I know the budget committee has not met since our last meeting.
Negotiations met, the teacher negotiations met, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we set up basically our schedule for the
That
next
was
3 or 4
before
months.
our last meeting, though, wasn't it?
What's that?
Was that before our last
I
meeting?
can't remember.
I can tell you what it was.
Yeah. Was it? What we
Yeah.
met?
Yeah, we did too.
Okay.
6:15 is what we
Okay.
got. It was right before the meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. The non-teacher union also met, and that was just basically just to establish guidelines
Mhm.
and dates of
Okay.
meetings. So next is CHS student handbook changes. I take it the most of what we saw is what we discussed already, that a lot of the policy has been withdrawn
A lot of
and,
them are summarized.
Yeah.
I actually, if you remember, the superintendent did not want the board to do anything with it until the new principal,
Yep.
Mr. Lonigan, had reviewed it. And I'm happy to say that I'm going to let Bill talk about that, because
Sure, sure.
we've reviewed that.
Sure, Mike Perez had actually gone through it prior to my going through it, and he's clearly much more familiar with the handbook than I was. I went through it and tabbed a lot of different, I'm a former English teacher, so a lot of grammatical challenges in it for me, and sort of tabbed those, and Michelle and I sat down for probably about an hour, I would gather, and went through a lot of those, and she kind of went through and tagged them afterwards and corrected them there. So I didn't see or have any major concerns with it. It's pretty typical of student handbooks that
Yeah.
I've seen previously, so, yep.
and again, it looks like very little as far as change. The majority of it was just within the body of it itself, removing policy and just referring to the policy and go to it.
And each school, we did that for each school.
Yep.
And I'll set all the links up in them so that we can go digital. I emailed legal counsel to give us the appropriate language for a digital signature form, to see if we could keep it digitally. One of the questions was to see if we could keep it digitally, or do we have to print it out and put it in the student's folder, which is fine. So I've got that going, so we should actually be able to publish this just before, a couple of weeks before school, I would think, once we get that form.
I know along with that, there are 2 drafts that are within the handbook right now that we need to approve, that we've already seen before, and again, we wanted to wait until Principal Lonergan was here before we did, especially where they're new, and the first was the retake draft that was presented to us at our last meeting.
You looking for my response to the retake?
Sure.
Sure. I'm a strong supporter of retake policies, and again, it just goes with good grading practices. It's the philosophy of, not every student's going to learn the material at the same rate at the same time. And when students show their inability to master the material, then you have to, from my perspective, you have to have the opportunity to reteach, and then the opportunity to take a different assessment, not the same assessment necessarily. And that requires 2 pieces, which can be challenging. One is the piece for the teacher, which is to constantly think about retaking and revising and reproducing and all that. And that's challenging for teachers, but the other piece is for the student, having that opportunity to again, go back and have some differentiated action to reassess, rethink, reprocess, and then go back and take an assessment. Any good grading practice, however, at some point says the grade is the grade, and we need to move on from there. So the real question I'm sure you've been challenged with is, how many retakes do you provide, and what is that point? And that's a really deep philosophical conversation, and I'm sure you've discussed that with teachers and with Julie here and with others in the school. I think this is a fairly straightforward process, and I think it provides the teachers some leeway because it gives them the opportunity. It's a minimum of one, but if it's 2 or 3 and they really see a student who's working hard and want to provide that opportunity, sure. I think it also is in the case of some coursework. You reference, I think, in prior editions, labs, when you're doing a chem lab or something, setting up for a lab, doing the lab, doing the work after the lab, that's pretty challenging to do. So you have to make sure that you kind of get a tight hold on that from the teacher perspective, because it's really challenging sometimes to do that. Yeah. But in terms of the policy, I noticed that that teacher input, I was looking through my office and found some input where in November of last year, I think, the teachers had...
It was a year-long, really, discussion that we went through.
Sure.
On
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, and it sounds like there was a good deal of consideration to what the
Right.
teachers wanted, so I think it's really important that students have to show that they've done some of that formative work and are willing to redo that formative work before you give them a summative assessment, or re-give them a summative assessment. But the policy looks fine for me.
I know it's fairly common practice in high school for a retake policy. How does that set them up for college?
Well, okay. I think there are challenges with that. I'll speak from my own personal experiences. My son went to WPI, which is a project-based school. So there was a project done, and there was a revision, and there was a revision and a revision. So depending on, and he was a computer science major.
Yep.
So there was always that constant talking with his teachers, working with teams of people, and moving forward. I think colleges aren't on board fully there yet. You know, you take the test, you pass the test, you
Right.
fail the test, and you go on. But I think they're also in the process of rethinking what that actually looks like. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know that all colleges are going to be happy that students get multiple opportunities to retake. At the same time, we're not talking about 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We're talking about adolescents.
Right.
Yeah, and that learning curve is a little different for every kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you touched on what my biggest concern is with the retake policy, and that's, do you have to change the test? My biggest concern is the student just goes in, doesn't really study for it or anything like that, sees what's on the test,
Yeah.
gets a bad grade, and then just comes back and retakes it now that he knows what's on it. Should there be something in here that says that the test has to change? I have no problem if they didn't quite grasp the content and they went back and they studied it again and they want to take I'm all for that.
Sure.
I want to avoid people just getting a look at the test and then retaking it
Sure.
afterwards.
No, and I agree with you on that. Mandating that, I maybe defer to Nate on that.
As I said, it's obviously more work for the teacher. Yeah.
It's standard practice. One of the things, this has been really looking at retakes all the way back from 2009, we really instituted the current formative summative grading system and
Okay.
retake policy. That we really put the limit on them because originally there was an unlimited amount of retakes and you could get any possible grade. So teachers were recreating an assessment sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 different times, and that is the concern of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Really sometimes is with the retake is getting that advanced preview. So that's why one of the things, and I think it was in there, was also good faith effort on the original summative assessment. If you walk into the room and just put your name on the paper and there's a lack of demonstration on the student part of a good faith effort, then teacher has some discretion in making sure that they wouldn't be able to go ahead and do that. But that's something that we all standard practice, that none of us are going to give out the same test. It is sometimes, people, sort of roll their eyes and be like, well, I have to go make a retake here, remake an assessment. So there was some time we try to make sure that does not happen.
I think that was explained to us when it was presented also, that they give a different test for that
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of the assessments are not things that students can just memorize. They really require writing, thinking out your answer, even mathematical problems. The students aren't going to memorize the actual numbers, and teachers will often change the numbers within a problem. So, the idea of students just coming in with memorized material is pretty slim. And frankly, if a student learns to restudy because of it, that can actually be an advantage.
Beneficial. I wouldn't think that retakes, I'll ask you, Nate, I mean, like in the course of a year, I mean, how many retakes do you possibly have?
It's a lot slimmer than it used to be.
Yeah.
It's the current iteration that we have, and so it's really not an exorbitant amount.
It's not like a daily occurrence where, I wouldn't think
It used
so.
to be.
Yeah.
It was.
So we've taught them better, brighter students.
Extend the time a little bit. Not to say that we don't, like Bill said, we don't believe that they shouldn't, but,
Right.
I think they're getting the message.
All right. So why don't we just vote on this one first, and we'll go to the cell phone.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the retakes draft.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, our next change is the CHS cell phone policy. Which again, I think is pretty straightforward and pretty similar to, I think, what the last one was.
It gave the students a little bit more flexibility in the cafeteria, I think, before school and during
Yeah.
their lunches. And it was a little less punitive, it seems like. The initial, the older policy was that cell phone was taken or was brought to the office, they picked it up at the end of the day, then the next, it was the end of the week. And I think this is, I think it's smarter to do it this way with our students today. They're digital natives and they're tied to this. It's rather interesting where I came from. We allowed students to use their cell phones in the hallways. And it was interesting. I was telling somebody previously that it wasn't so much the students walking in the hallway with their cell phones that were the challenge. It was the students who had both headphones in and who were oblivious to everything happening around them. So if you had a safety issue or they were walking on carelessly listening to the music. But it was, anecdotally, when we changed the policy, which was probably 2 or 3 years ago, it was interesting. The last year, I actually would go outside and watch the movement of students across campus, and it actually wasn't that many students who had both headphones in. I would probably, again, huge school, I would go by 300 or 400 students and see maybe count 8 to 10 students who had both headphones in and who were really focused in. But in my building, I would watch students going by, and I would give a good number as 85% of the students weren't looking at their phones. They were walking along, talking to friends, or catching up with somebody.
Yeah.
So as we're moving towards this sort of digital world, actually as we're in this digital world, the hallways aren't as much of a challenge in my perspective, with the exception of the students who are safety concerned, simply because they're plugged into that and they're not paying attention to the environment around them. Yeah. But so this is, to me, this is rather appropriate. And my understanding was the students had some input on this.
There were several students that got together that
Sure.
helped comprise us. Yeah.
And they weren't concerned with the hallway as much as they were in the cafeteria, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, this seems appropriate to me.
Make a motion to approve cell phone policy.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Especially in the hallway if they download that Pokemon app.
There. Right.
Does the board want to
Yeah, that
give
way-
their consensus on letting the handbooks go forward with the changes?
Yeah, I was going to do that next. So we have the changes, so now we're looking for a motion to approve the CHS, I guess we'll do each one individually. So the CHS handbook with the revisions.
Make a motion to approve the CHS handbook.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 300.
I thought it was a change now.
I know, I'll change that.
Okay.
All right, that will bring us to the GMS handbook.
I had a question on this one I never got an answer on. There's a third section on toys. It says students are not allowed to bring any balls or playground equipment to school. And I think we're going to ask Mr. Thompson about that. And the reasoning was that they provide everything, but
Right.
I'd argue that they don't provide everything, because there's many days that go by where the balls are broken, or they forgot to order balls, or whatever. I don't know, just think. When I was a student, I brought my own football to school and played football. And you lost it, you lost it. Like, I don't know.
And I thought that's what they said as far as the concern. I know that when it comes to like trading cards and things like that.
That I understand. I'm talking about like, you want to bring a soccer ball or football to play with at recess.
I'm not sure the answer to that.
Unless GMS wants to commit to making sure that all of that stuff's there. I don't know.
I'm sure that Mr. Thompson can give us that commitment. Do we want to hold off on approving that one, or do we want to approve it and inquire afterwards?
I'll approve it if we can inquire afterwards.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. That will bring us to the LMS handbook. Same thing, looks like all of them. Like I said, it's inside the body where it references policy to go to.
Make a motion to approve LMS handbook.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. 300. Which will then bring us to the approval of DFA investment policy.
Is school district treasurer the same as business administrator?
I'm sorry, is what?
School district treasurer the same as business administrator?
No, they're two different.
Who's the treasurer?
Treasurer is Lynn Badley. It's an elected position.
Okay.
Basically, the policy hasn't changed.
Correct.
It's just that the auditors require an annual reapproval.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom, every year it gets approved.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve policy DFA.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. And we have the manifest, which we'll have to go through. And that'll bring us to public input. Hearing none. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Lonergan for coming to the school board meeting. And again, welcome to CHS, and good luck.
Appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to it. I've had some good responses from people already. Good to meet both the support staff and a lot of the professional staff have been coming in, had some great conversations, so I'm excited about the year ahead.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure we've seen plenty of you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
absolutely. Sure, you're welcome.
Threatening.
That'll bring us to non-public, RSA 91-A:311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of charges against him. Unless the employee affected, one, has a right to the meeting, and two, represents that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any persons other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. We're now in non-public.